Hi, I'm Rachel Nilsson here at the Breakfast with Silicon Slopes. Just moderated an amazing panel with an amazing entrepreneur, Hynek from Nena Co. Enjoy.
I'm so excited to be with my friend Ali. She asked me to moderate. I haven't been a moderator before, but she's the perfect guinea pig.
Thank you.
I started my business 5 years ago. I met Ali. I was actually a super fan of her brand, Nena Co. And she somehow got my phone number and called me and wanted to join up to do a warehouse sale. And I didn't even know that she was in Utah. So I was so excited. And not only was she in Utah, she was like a mile away from where we were. So after that, we just became really close. We kind of started around the same time. We're talking to the same consumer. And it's been really fun working alongside somebody that's super supportive. I think that's really rare when, you know, you're both in the grind, and finding somebody that is your cheerleader and sincerely excited for your success. And Ali is such a good one. So I'm excited for you guys to get to know her more. Ali, do you want to just tell them a little bit about what you do, when you started, and then where you're at currently, and then we can jump into it.
So I started a company called Nena Company, and it is something I started in my garage. Pretty a typical story, I guess, in that sense. I'm Guatemalan, and it's actually based in Guatemala. I wanted to connect with family, really, is what I wanted to do down there, and connect with my heritage. I realized that there was a great need down there. There was so much talent, and underutilized and underappreciated, and just did not have the opportunity to show what they were doing. And I'm speaking of women that are weavers down there. So I started with vintage pieces. So I would literally go to the flea markets in certain, famous markets, and I would be purchasing used. It's actually Mayan women clothing, and you just don't know what you're doing sometimes. It became the most popular collection for me. It was the only collection I had, and then I realized that's not actually giving people work. I didn't realize weaving's a dying art all over the world. It's a lost language. That's how people used to communicate. So just knowing that side of it, I decided, okay, so these people, they're maybe one of their one skill sets or only skill sets is to weave, and I'm driving this market of interest in Guatemala, and I'm buying old stuff that nobody's making anymore. And so a lot of my efforts and research and time and money went into, okay, I need to get the new stuff going, which I'm super happy to say the new stuff is more popular now and resells for much more than the vintage stuff. But what I also realized is that we were driving up the market for anybody else to come in and purchase those used vintage pieces. And so I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but we were also closing the door for other people to come in and do what we were doing because things were getting more and more expensive. So the weavers don't actually work for me. They have their own little businesses, which I'm also really proud of, because the next time I see them, they'll say, hey, it went from me and my sister weaving to this whole community. All the women in my village, I'm thinking, oh, are you guys sisters? Is this your family? And they're like, no, these are the women in our community. My friends, my neighbors, they are family in a sense because they grew up together. And you don't go far when you are living in these little villages. They're their own business now. And part of it is that they know that they can rely on the work I'm going to give them. So I think it's affected it in a positive way. I took my own photos. I started just taking them with my iPhone, and I started on Instagram, which we have a similar story in that sense. And it just kind of went from there. So now we have, in Antigua, Guatemala, we have, I think, 120-ish leather craftsmen. We have a couple hundred weavers throughout the country. We have a handful of seamstresses. We have when I say handful, 20, 25 seamstresses and weavers. Sorry, not weavers, but pom-pom makers to make accessories for your bags. That Rachel has a little pom-pom right here.
I will be your model.
So we're close. So we went to Morocco and kind of did the same thing. We don't own the process there, but we opened Morocco. We did the same thing in Ghana, and we're currently working on opening up the same situation in Mexico. We basically only launched product. We released or dropped product on Fridays at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it wasn't something that which basically created this big sense of urgency. Like, product was selling out in seconds, and I wasn't, I would have my notifications on my phone, and it would just be like ding, 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 and then it would stop. So I didn't mean to do that, but what happened was I would create some hype, and be like, I would tell people my story on Instagram. I would let them see what was going on. I received product, now I'm photographing it, and it's going to be available on Friday. Now it's available, and then it would just be like, it would come in and it would come out, like, and so, and then it was like, where I'm on your website, there's nothing there. Oh, it's like this big education process of, well, we only drop product on Fridays. It became this big thing of scarcity. It became, I didn't mean it to be. It ended up that you just can't get product, and if you're not on it at the right time, you're going to miss your chance. And so all of a sudden, the number of people on our website was just going up and up and up, and the demand kept growing. And part of it was, I guess that's what happened. Like, I just didn't realize that was going to happen.
Yeah. So you realize your product is selling out in seconds, which I think is a benefit for your brand. I think that's such a big part of your brand. I think it's just become sort of the experience when they're buying. At what point have you taken on any funding? And I know the answer there, but has inventory been a hard thing for you to navigate as far as, fronting cash and getting more in? Or do you plan to scale, or do you plan to stay limited because of the fear of missing out factor?
Right. Yeah, so to scale and to keep that, so now our business model is very much based on, there's a lot, it's scarcity, it comes and goes, it's limited edition. And when I started, I started with $6,000. That's how much I knew I had to basically spare. If I lost it, we were going to be okay. And that's as much as we took out without having anything in return. We haven't taken on any funding. For me, it was more of growing responsibly, and I do care how I get there, and I do care about the time I have with my family, and it wasn't like I'm gonna source from all over, and I'm all in, and it was more like I'm gonna grow responsibly. I don't want to hire and fire, which I have been told, just get used to that idea, and I still can't.
What would be your 2 top takeaways of like what you did right and what you believe your special sauce was that you think you can interject probably in any business or anybody sitting here that they can probably implement?
So. In the world I'm in fashion and women's, marketing to women, sustainability is actually a really big thing that is becoming quite popular. And for us, it's not just a marketing tactic, it's actually just how I started the company. And so not only that, but being really transparent. I really felt like we need to be different. We need to be, to me, design and product innovation is kind of what leads us. It lets us be a leader. Have it be that beautiful story, the details and all that, but have it be a functional bag, have it be a good, good quality, good hardware, good leather, all that stuff.
Talk a little bit about your community and how they've served you and what you've really done there, because I know your focus this year, we've chatted a lot about just growing and scaling, and Allie's brand is limited edition. Our brand is actually limited edition, and that's super hard to scale because you don't want to feel like you're selling out. You don't want to feel like you're going to the masses. Allie's done a really good job with connecting to her community. She's almost become this avatar that these women want to become. I've seen, and then Nena has now just become some sort of like collector's item. You can talk a little bit about your community, what you've done there to service them, because I think in any brand, when you're selling a product or a service, anything e-com, I think community is such a huge part of the brand. I think it's so magical, and I think it can really change the trajectory of of your brand. So I would
Yeah.
love for you to chat through that.
Yeah, so I love that Rachel's asking me these questions because she's taught me so much. We have customers that they're spending tens of thousands of dollars, some of them hundreds of thousands of dollars on our product. But part of it is because there's this really healthy buy-sell trade market. And there's several independent groups that we work in conjunction with them, like we will support them and to make sure that we keep things positive in the community. But they basically, if you buy a Nena bag, you can resell it for at least retail value, depending on the exclusivity of it. You know, $1,000, $2,000, $6,000 that they're reselling for, so it's not just about a bag; it's about a community, and it's about what we have in common as women.
It's always so meaningful when you're getting a third party to talk about your brand rather than yourself. It's so unbiased.
Yeah.
They're like your people going out there and bringing other people into the fold, and it's not feeling, biased by the brand. So I think that's
Absolutely.
super powerful. And I think catering to that sort of community where you can get these guys to be your evangelists and go out and bring other people into the fold, I think that's like 10 times more powerful, and they're willing
Absolutely.
to stay
Yeah.
and buy and become a real consumer for you.
Right.
So it's almost free marketing.
It is, and so we put a lot of effort, I guess, in digital marketing and paid digital marketing. We'll put a lot of effort into that first time, how to get them here, how to make that first purchase. And then really after that, we want them to flow into our private group so that we no longer have to be the one saying, I swear it's so good, I swear you'll love it, it's so awesome. It's other people that are saying, oh my gosh, just last night I was reading comments. We released a new icon for the brand that we put on a bag, and they were all these women posting their bags saying how they cried when they opened it, how much they could relate to it. I'm giving myself goosebumps right now.
What would be your advice as far as how do you get started in getting, because not only is the community really awesome for your brand, it's also consumer insight. And I think a lot of people pay a lot of money to get consumer insight. And this is like consumer insight at your fingertips. So
Right.
What would be your advice to those sitting in the audience that maybe don't have this community yet, that want to find out ways to capture that community? What would be your advice for them, or how to get started?
The great and terrible thing about social media is that you can talk directly to your customer, your consumer. Know what your voice is, know what your voice as a company is, and make sure that you are responding to your customers, that you're initiating conversations, and that you're not that just up here. Companies aren't just up here and you can't reach them anymore, because you can reach Versace now. Like, you can reach those brands, and they have to listen to you. So I would get ahead of it.
To wrap up, what would be maybe the one or two things that you have learned throughout this process that's kind of been a little bit unforeseen, that you were like, oh, I wish I could have gone back and maybe changed that, if anything?
Invest in making yourself look good. And then also invest in really great people. The future for us is growing outside other countries, but also we're making our way into clothing, which would be a similar model. It would either be organic, sustainably sourced, woven by artisans, that type of thing, which I'm really, really excited about because it's this fall.
Thank you so much for coming. Allie, you're amazing. It's been so fun chatting. This is a fun little platform because normally it's very candid. So thank you so much. She is the best. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you. And thank you, Rachel.